Hello, my name is Dr. Gazsi, and today I'm going to be talking about our three pillars to a multi six-figure practice. In this presentation, I will be giving you an overview of the tools I use to take my practice from not making a living and feeling stressed out to being comfortable, financially comfortable, and enjoying every minute of my practice and every minute of working with patients and helping them. So a little bit about me. I'm a naturopathic doctor. I graduated from the National College or National University of Naturopathic Medicine in 1993. I was in private practice between 1994 and 2020, so 26 years. I decided to retire after that point. During the time I was in practice, about half the time I did not take insurance. The other half of the time I took Anthem, Oxford, Aetna, and Cigna. The reason that's relevant is that some practitioners feel that insurance helps their practice to boom. Others feel that it doesn't, or that it hinders them. So I was in practice when insurance paid well. I was in practice when insurance didn't pay well. I was in practice without insurance. So the program I'm talking about has no bearing on whether you take insurance or not, though I think taking insurance does help with your practice volume, but I think it depends on the area you're in. If nobody is able to take insurance in your area and you don't, it shouldn't make any difference. Whereas if you're in an area where all the naturopaths are taking insurance but you aren't, it might make it more difficult for sure. I practiced out of my home in Danbury. I lived on a cul-de-sac off a cul-de-sac, so we had absolutely no drive-by traffic. Couple disclosures. I'm the founder of this Three Pillars program, the one you're seeing right now. I put this together to help practitioners because I found a lot of my colleagues were struggling financially and even struggling professionally with their practice, not having enough patients, seeing two patients a day and being frustrated by not having enough volume in their practice, even from a sense of feeling fulfilled as a practitioner. And also, I'm the founder and president of Professional Nutritionals, which is a professional nutritional supplement company which specializes in no minimum private label. So I started a little bit about me and my story, and this is relevant only because it'll tell you, that I wasn't always successful in practice, and I struggled for years, and how I got out of that struggle. And I'm hoping this will give you at least some relatability and also maybe some ideas. You may not like all my ideas or want to use my ideas, but maybe it'll give you ideas of your own. Sometimes, someone shares an idea and you go, hey, I don't like that idea, but I thought of one that might work better for me. So, the goal here is to help those that need help or want help with growing their practice and becoming more, not only financially, but also successful from a practitioner point of view and being able to help more people. And the more patients you see, of course, the more people you can help. So I started practicing in 1994. My practice grew very quickly, but not quick enough. It was expensive to live in Connecticut, and we had a lot of overhead. So I accumulated about $60,000 in credit card debt over about 4 years. Got married, had a child, ended up filing bankruptcy to get rid of the credit card debt. So then basically every month my income fell short of my expenses. My practice kind of hit a plateau, and I ended up in financial trouble again. I ended up meeting with financial counselors, and they basically said that I don't make enough to live on. So I ended up running up my wife's credit cards because mine were gone with the bankruptcy. Had another child, and then so by 2000 I had $17,000 in credit card debt. So I basically had maxed out the credit cards, and that's when I realized that we just can't. I just can't keep going this direction. It's just not working. So I met with another financial counselor, and anyway, he looked at everything. He looked at our income. He looked at our expenses, and he says, maybe you need to find another line of work. And that made me angry because I'd spent, 8 to 10 years of my life in school. That was my passion. I loved helping patients. I loved helping people. I was a very successful practitioner in the sense that patients liked me, and they got better and they sung my praises, but I wasn't making a living. So here I was, 34 years old, married with children, started this journey when I was 17, loved what I did, but I wasn't able to live this way. So I didn't want to start practicing, but it wasn't working financially. So I decided to start treating my practice a little bit more like a business, and this is very difficult for me because I'm kind of altruistic. I like to help people. I don't want to think about money or finances. I just want to, do what I'm good at and help the patients that are coming to me that need help. So I didn't want to be a heartless corporation, but I found I did have to treat my practice a little bit like a business. And the nice thing about that actually is it has had a silver lining. And I found in the long run I was actually able to help more people and help them in better ways. So anyway, I found if I didn't make these changes, I wouldn't be able to continue doing what I loved, and I wouldn't be able to help people. So it was kind of a mandate. I had to do it. So my net income basically with these changes increased from 30 to 40,000 a year to 180 to 220,000 a year. Again, it depends on what your goals are. It depends on where you live. That may be in Connecticut. That's a good living. In some areas that might be wealthy. In some areas that might be poor. Again, it depends on how expensive the living is in the area that you're in. But I think in most places, 30 to 40,000 a year isn't enough to really do well on. So anyway, with these changes, I became a lot busier. I was able to help a lot more patients, which is what I wanted all along. And this presentation is really about how I turn things around. And again, as I said before, my hope is that it'll give you some useful ideas for your own practice. So I separated this into three pillars or three sections. Each section has some subsections, but just to make it simple. So pillar one is how to keep the patients you have. And I'm not talking about keeping patients coming back when they don't need to come back. I'm talking about keeping patients to come back when they do, and also to help maintain their health. It's very important. And I found in practice that many times the patients who didn't come back after they were better um, many times relapsed. So I found that having a maintenance program, even if it's once a year, was extremely important. So pillar one, if you're losing patients as fast as you get them, you'll never grow. Because if patients don't follow, and also on top of that, if patients don't follow up, they don't stay better. And again, I'm not saying have them come back every week, but once the patient's stable and they're doing well, maybe have them come back in 3 months, maybe have them come back in 6 months. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to accomplish that. So there's three steps to this first pillar. Step one is to give a detailed plan of care, and I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. And I know a lot of you probably do a detailed plan of care, but I want to kind of give you an idea of what I did and how it worked. Step two is patient returns, making sure they come back, when they should come back, and why they should come back. And the why is exceptionally, exceptionally important. And then step three is your return patient visit length. Longer is not necessarily better, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, talking about this detailed plan of care, and again, I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. Um, your patient of care, your plan of care, sorry, should tell your patient what to do and itemize it, list it, why they should do each item. So don't just say, well, don't eat wheat. Well, why? What's the reason? What is wheat doing? Is it making them bloated? Is it making them constipated? Is it making them depressed? Patients don't remember everything you tell them because it's a lot of information. So you have to really give them in writing the details so that they know and they were reminded as to why you've asked them to do this. Because otherwise they'll come back and say, I don't remember why you told me to do that, so I stopped. So how long to do it for? Because many times I might say to someone, okay, take vitamin C or take an antioxidant. Well, for how long? For a week, for a month, for a year, forever? They really need to know, and it needs to be in writing. And also, you need to tell them when to come back, and really more importantly than that is why they should come back. Because if you say, I want to see you in a month, and you don't tell them why you need to see them in a month, they're not going to be really motivated to come back in a month because they're not going to know why. They're going to say, I feel better. There's really no reason for me to come back. I'll call you if I need you. So, and then I have a little tip there for you. If you use a electronic medical record system, there are some systems that have features that will help you to automate these type of things. So step one, put complex treatments as line items that refer to a whole sheet handout. So let's say you're saying you want them to do a type of hydrotherapy uh, or another home therapy. You can write that on the treatment plan, but then give them a handout on that so that they can have reference and they can look at it and go, oh, this is what he said, and refresh their memory on it. So the same thing with diets. I don't like to explain diets and verbally. I like to give them a handout so that they can refer to it, and maybe I'll review that handout with them and then give them a copy so that they have something to read. Whole sheet handouts should be used for anything that you find that you're using once a month more often. So if you find you're explaining something again and again to patients, it's a really good idea to have a handout on it so that you don't have to explain as much. You can go over the finer points of it and you can give them something to read. Otherwise, patients get overwhelmed. They get too much information. They can't absorb it all. So this is an example of my treatment plan. There's actually two parts to this. So make sure that your contact information is easy to find. Otherwise, they'll say they can't remember what your phone number was or how to reach you. Be very specific when you want them to take dosages if it's important. So you may want to take something on an empty stomach. So you see like the first line amylase, take 2 capsules when you wake on an empty stomach, and then next to it it says why. It's for allergies, and when as needed for seasonal. So this way they have all the information um, that you're explaining to them, from when to take it with food, what's the reasoning, and how long they should be taking that for. This is the second part of that handout. Again, this was a very comprehensive handout. Uh, if you're making suggestions, uh, things that are out of pocket that you want them to do, and you discussed it with them, I put it on the plan. I put the cost in the plan, and that way they can review it. Especially if they say, "Well, I'll have to think about that," at least it's on there. And so, if a month later they're not feeling well, they may look at the plan and say, "Oh, that's right. Maybe I should do that nutrient testing." So, and then the last part is return in 3 weeks, and the why. Why do you want them to return? It could be for a retest of something. It could be to reorder labs, but you want to let them know the why so that they have a reason and a motivation to come back. So at the very bottom, we always put this section called "Important Notice, Please Read." And this was because I found that many times patients would take what I gave them and then they would look online or they'd go to the store and try to substitute. And I really didn't want them to, because many times they would pick up the wrong thing or the wrong concentration. It comes to mind actually a story that happened with a patient who was taking our olive leaf extract, which was a 40% oleoeuropin extract. It was working wonderfully for their allergies. They ran out and they went and Puritan's Pride was having a sale, and it was a buy one get two free sale, and they switched to that because it saved them a lot of money, or they thought. And they called me up and they said, my allergies are bad. And I said, are you still taking the olive leaf? And they said yes. I looked at my history, and they hadn't bought the olive leaf from me since the first visit. So I asked them about it nicely, and I said, and they said, oh, I found this Puritan's Pride. And I said, well, let me look at it. Send me a picture of the label. Well, the olive leaf they bought was cheaper, but it was a 60 count, not a 90 count. And it was only 250 milligrams of olive leaf, not 500 milligrams of olive leaf. And it was only a 6% concentration, not an 18% concentration. So they weren't getting anywhere near the effective dose that they should have been getting because they substituted. So this important notice really was about not substituting and to call us when they needed refills. So otherwise they run out of what I gave them at the first visit and they just stop taking it. So it was and I would review this with patients the first time, and I'd highlight areas and I would explain to them why. And yes, that takes time, but it increases the consistency and makes sure that they understand what they're supposed to be doing. And this I found really helped our success rate in people getting better, and it increased our practice. So step two, patient returns. When should they return and why? So from the minute they walk in the door, check in to check out, you want to have a written system in place that patients need to be explained to when and why to return. They should have their appointment booked before they leave. And you should learn the answers to the most common scheduling objections. So if they're say, well, I don't have my calendar, et cetera, you should have answers to all those. And then you should have a follow-up system if for patients that won't reschedule or for patients that cancel. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So we use this thing called a travel sheet. We made these up. Even if you don't have staff, it's good to use this because when you're with your patient in your office, you have one role. And when you go out to the front desk to check them out, if you don't have staff, you're in a different role. So this sheet should be used regardless. And what you do is you fill this out when you're with the patient to notate to yourself what is it you're doing? What are you charging them? What you're doing this visit, when you're expecting to return, why you're expecting to return, what your recommendations are. And you would customize this for your practice and the tools that you use. So if you're when you fill this out, you hand it to your staff or you bring it with you and then you go through it when you're checking them out too. It gives you that, oh, I don't have to think about this now. It's all written down. This is what I'm doing. And normally if you had staff, you would hand it to them and now your staff knows exactly what it is you're wanting to do. You don't have to stand there and explain it to them and have them take notes. You could just hand it to them and go back to your office, finish your charting. So it saves a tremendous amount of time. Okay, so a little bit more about patient returns, when and why. These are common excuses, and these are the answers that we use. One excuse is, I don't have my calendar. Nowadays with cell phones, that's a little more difficult to get away with, or I don't know my schedule. So I always used to say, let's schedule a time, and when you get home, if that time doesn't work, call us, and we'll reschedule it. Or if they don't go for that, or if they say I'll call later to schedule, say that's great, but let them know that they have to call a few weeks ahead. So please call at least 2 weeks before. So because Dr. Gazsi is very busy, or I have a busy schedule, it may be hard to find time if you call just before you need to come in. And this will give them a little bit of urgency. And sometimes they're like, oh well, I guess I might as well just schedule. Yeah, you're right, because it'll be hard to get in otherwise, and I might forget. So it just gives you some answers to objections that people come up with. So if you have patients, and then we all do, that won't schedule or that cancel, we had letters we would send them at least once a year, or more often if they're supposed to be in 3 months. But this was like the yearly appointment for people to make them come on a regular basis. So it was a pre-written form. We would just fill out the parts, the dates. Dr. Gazsi recommends his patients come in at least once a year to review their protocols and to run any labs. And then we always put a little takeaway from them. If you're no longer needing Dr. Gazzi's services, we ask that you please let us know so we can update our records. So you're basically letting them know that, if you're not coming in, then we're going to presume you don't need our services. And some people even put that in is, we need you to come in at least once a year to consider you to be an active patient. And I think that that wording actually is very powerful as well, because people go, oh, I don't want to stop being an active patient. So they'll come in once a year because they want to make sure that they stay as an active patient, because they're concerned that they might not get priority if they need you. So make SOPs, standard operating procedures, excuse me. An SOP is basically a written down instructions of how things are done. And this is important not only to keep yourself on track, but also if you have staff, to train new staff. So that when you have a new person coming in, you don't have to train them. You can give them the SOPs to read. So if you do something once, write it down how you do it. The next time you don't have to figure it out, and makes it easy. So the other thing I did in my practice that was very helpful is we offered memberships. We called them VIP memberships or plans. Um, we had different plans at different times of the practice. When I didn't take any insurance, I had plans that included visits. And then at a later time, when I did take insurance, I had plans that didn't include visits because the insurance covered that, but they included other services. And this has a few benefits. One is it it advertises some of the services you offer. It also gives savings to patients, and it encourages them to come in to use those savings. Kind of like a Costco membership. People go shop at Costco because they have a Costco membership. I was doing this again, a long time ago. And again, the benefit, I'd list benefits, I'd list what included, I'd list the costs, I let them spread the costs out. We had a written contract because you can't just, you have to have it in writing, otherwise people don't remember what the situation is. So these are another idea of memberships. Again, we went through a few different evolutions of this depending on what we were doing in the practice. Um, Again, you can make up something that works for you. Discounts off supplements, discounts off programs, discounts off detox programs, and this, now you're advertising this detox programs. You can give discounts off certain types of tests, so in-house screenings, things like this. Okay, so patient returns. This was a third rendition of a program we offered. Again, just different ideas, ways to keep people, keep them on track. Make sure whatever you offer is legal. Laws change. It's always good to check. I know at one point gift certificates, we found out that gift certificates couldn't expire. So you have to be careful with that. Again, I don't know what the legal standing is now for that kind of thing. All right. Moving on, return patient visit length. I believe, this is my personal opinion, that shorter visits are better for everyone. I find that patients can only absorb so much. If you're spending an hour with a return patient, I don't think they can absorb that much information. If you need a lot of time with a patient to accumulate information about them, it's best, I think personally, that you use questionnaires and forms to collect the information, because otherwise you're charging them for your time to collect the information that they could have written down for you. So my philosophy was, first visit I spent 50 minutes. That leaves me 10 minutes to check the patient in and out or prep for the next patient, review their chart. So I schedule an hour, but I have 50 minutes with them, and then I have time to review the chart, make some notes, and preview the chart for the next patient coming in. I find it's very important to review the previous visit before the patient walks in the door, so that I know what's going on, and I don't have that patient walk in and I go, oh, why are you here? Or I don't know anything about their history. It's very important for me to know, and they feel confident in you when you know what the story is. So the second visit, I would spend 30 to 45 minutes, because usually I'm explaining a treatment plan, and then the rest of the visits are usually 20 to 30 minutes, with most of my visits being about 20 minutes. Why is this important? Well, if you're spending 45 minutes to an hour with every return patient, it's very hard to see more than, say, 8 people in a day. So when you get your visits down to 20 or 30 minutes, you can increase your volume dramatically. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, use comprehensive intake forms instead of long visits. Keep your returns short, so they can absorb that information, and don't try to treat all the conditions at every visit. Try to pick with one or two if they have multiple issues. Use handouts to educate instead of repeating yourself, or instead of explaining everything. And you can go over the handout, highlight a few areas, but that way they have something to read when they go home. I found personally, I always like to treat the basics first. Nature cure kind of work, fix the gut, fix the adrenals, fix the thyroid if that's an issue. Sometimes you fix the gut and 90% of their problems go away anyway. Shorter, more frequent visits I found will increase compliance and success rates. And so when I've seen patients every 20 minutes, every half hour, I would schedule up to 16 patients in a day. So, and I would pack my schedule full. I didn't put any breaks in, because inevitably one or two of those always canceled or rescheduled. So we always had breaks built in. That gets a little manic occasionally when nobody cancels, then you get emergencies. So it depends on your energy level and how you like to schedule it, but just different ways to do things. All right, pillar 2, establish secondary income streams for profitability. So I have 4 steps in this one. Have lots of therapies and procedures, and again, what you do with that depends on what your niche is, how you like to practice. We'll talk a little bit about that. Keep your overhead low. Sell nutritional supplements. My philosophy is they're going to be, most people take them, whether you give them or not. better that they get good quality products from you versus getting them something that might be actually contaminated or toxic or bad for them from somebody else. And private label everything, because otherwise they're going to go online or to the local store and buy it from somewhere else. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So the therapies and procedures, again, this is different for every different practitioner, but the more options you have, the more tools you have, the more patients you can help. Optimally have procedures that your staff can do. Uh, I really didn't have that ability in my practice, to be honest, because I had an office out of my house. I had limited parking. I had limited space for staff. So I couldn't have patients coming and going and doing lots of therapies when I was there seeing patients because we didn't have the parking for it. So while I did offer oxygen therapy and sauna therapy at the time, I was pretty limited in how many people I could see at one time. But if you're in a commercial space with ample parking, and you have enough square footage, you can actually do quite a bit. Write up a list of that ties your services to different conditions. So, here's a therapy that might help this kind of condition, and have that list available on your computer or on your desk so to remind you of options you can offer if you tend to forget or stop recommending something. Sometimes, we'll have the best therapy in the world, but we'll forget to tell people about it. Consider just ideas of things to consider. I didn't use all of these. Acupuncture, oxygen therapy. We did this neat therapy called oxygen multi-step therapy. We had oxygen tanks, and we've had people exercise and hyperventilate oxygen. And let me tell you, people really felt the difference from that therapy. They really loved it. It would stimulate detox. It would stimulate mental function, endurance. Really was a popular therapy. Auricular therapy. Again, list goes on and on. There's so many in our profession, but it's good to have procedures. Uh, In-office testing is great, or testing that you send out that you collect in the office, or private labs. If you can make a little markup, even if it's $25, it makes a big difference. Using cash pay labs for people that don't have insurance. Again, great tool for a lot of patients that are underinsured or don't have insurance, or have insurance that doesn't cover what we do, and alternative type labs. Keep your overhead low. Every dollar that you spend on overhead is a dollar that you don't get to keep. So, and again, I'm not saying be cheap, but I'm saying is be frugal. If you can get away with one employee instead of two by being efficient with systems, that saves that money goes in your pocket. If you can keep your like my overhead was very low because I had an office out of my home. So if you practice by yourself, consider a home office if it's possible. Again, it gives you the ability to write off a percentage of almost everything imaginable. A third of utilities, a third of your snow removal if you're up the north. There's no commute. There's, you can, there's lots of advantages, and there's also disadvantages. Or get the smallest space you can use and use a virtual assistant. Again, I'm talking about if you're a solo practitioner, if you have a small practice. If you have a big practice, then yeah, you need the space for sure. Or you can start a group or join a group to share the overhead. Having one staff for multiple doctors is always a smart idea. Step 3, sell nutritional supplements. I think most people do those, or natural medicines, if you want to call them that. But even maintenance products, not just the special adrenal formula or special thyroid formula or special irritable bowel formula, but also the general maintenance things like multivitamins, minerals, fish oil, digestive enzymes, CoQ10, anything they take, you should carry it. I found that supplements can triple my income, and patients, honestly, when I told them, hey, this is what I recommend, they were really appreciative because they didn't know, and they didn't know who to trust, and they didn't know what products to trust. So if you endorse something, you may get an occasional patient that thinks you're trying to, sell them something, but really it shouldn't be coming from that point of view of I'm trying to sell you something. It should be coming from the point of view of I'm looking out for you. I want to make sure you're getting a quality product to make sure this actually helps your health, not makes you worse. So most patients are taking supplements. Most times this is just not from you. So services give you an income, procedures that we talked about before. They give you an income, but they take up your time, which is perfectly fine. While supplements, though, give you more of a residual income and take up less of your time. And I think it's important to have both. Obviously, only do what's in your patient's best interest. Don't sell them something they don't need. Don't sell them something that isn't going to help them. So how do I do this without selling? And as I said before, you should never really sell. You should educate. You should offer quality, and you should offer convenience. Many times I had patients tell me, "I really wish you carried this because I don't want to have to go out and get another sources or pay for shipping or have to figure out which is the right thing to take." Share the information, leave it up to them. Patients are looking for solutions, they're looking for convenience, and they want your recommendations. Don't forget that you are the expert, you are the trusted agent. They come to you for your advice, and you have to be the expert, and you have to explain to them why you're recommending what you're recommending. Step 4, private label everything. Before I started doing this, I lost probably 80% of my sales to other sources. Patients would buy a product from me once, or they'd buy it from a portal from me once, and then they'd go online and try to find it cheaper elsewhere, or they'd find it more conveniently elsewhere on Amazon, or they would go to a store and buy it there. Um, Professional stores are competing with you. That's just what it is. Professional brands sold on Amazon and eBay are often fraudulent. In other words, they may be sawdust in that capsule. Even if it says a brand name on the label, there are companies that put sawdust or dirt or whatever in the capsule, and they label it with, it's illegal, but they do it, but they label it with a brand name. So I found that letting your patients buy online or from local stores is undermining your results, as they likely are buying the lower quality or incorrect products. Patients will buy protected brands from health food stores. So protected brands are brands that only sell to practitioners, even if they're not on the internet. Though nowadays I think they're all on the internet. Um, these health food stores keep the products behind the counter, or they used to. I don't know if they still do this. And people will ask for them. So basically, the stores are competing with you. And if you don't care and you're not serious about your business, then it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to make a living, and really the health food store owner cares, that's why they're selling it. They're trying to make the money. So, the reality is you should really be making that profit, not them. You're the one recommending the product. So, develop your own brand. It helps to decrease attrition, and it helps to protect your patient from fraudulent products, especially on Amazon. You'll develop brand loyalty. Patients will refer to their friends to your brand because of their results. Patients commonly go onto natural health product dispensaries from their practitioner. So, for instance, like Full Script. So, a patient might go on to a dispensary and that you recommend. They'll order it the first time from them, and then the next time they'll see if they can find that same one on Amazon because it's more convenient for them. So only private label protects you. And I always say for this to work, at least 80% of your product should be your own brand. So private label builds credibility with patients. Remember, that makes you the expert. It decreases the loss of sales from online sources and increases your sales with very little time outlay. This translates into between $50,000 and $200,000 a year in extra revenue. And that figure tends to grow over time. So after doing this for 1 year, there wasn't a huge increase, but over 20 years, it made a huge impact. All right. And this is just some math I did at one point, figuring out, what, where, because someone asked me once, where do you get these numbers from? And I just did the math, 30 patients a week, how much they spend per session, it adds up. And then as that number grows, of course, your income grows. And again, this isn't about selling patients products they don't need. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying people are taking these things anyway. Many times they're taking poor quality products. It's important that they get them from a good source. And I found too that by keep helping patients be consistent, they got better, they stayed better, they felt better, and they appreciated that. So when I was in practice, my average transaction per patient was about $359. Most of that was residual supplement sales. I actually could go 2 or 3 months without seeing a patient, sometimes 6 months, and I would still be making that money on a monthly basis. When I say per patient, I think it was per family, because they were buying for their husband and for their kids. But it adds up, as you can see from the numbers. All right. Little bit more, and then I'm going to get on to the next topic. Many times practitioners struggle because they're generic in their recommendations. There's nothing that makes them special or unique or different in any way from anybody else. This isn't just about private label, though. This is about even therapies. If you're doing the same exact thing as all the other doctors or all the other naturopaths in your area, how are you special? Why wouldn't someone go to see another practitioner unless you're better at it or unless you offer something unique? So this is true for therapies and procedures as it is for product. All right, pillar 3, efficient marketing for new patients. Um, how do we bring new people in without spending a lot of money? And how do we, without spending a lot of time and a lot of money? Right, patients are your first and strongest source of referrals. So your current patients, your satisfied patients. So there's 3 steps to this program. One is to have a referral program where you actively ask for referrals. Step 2 is to have testimonials that are, especially that are online, so others can find them. And step 3 is to, as I had mentioned before, be the expert. So you get build up a good reputation. All right. So step 1, who referred you? Um, I always ask on my form, say, have as a question, who referred you to our office? And if they don't fill it out, ask them, because many people don't fill it out. They don't remember, or they just don't want to be bothered. I always ask them. You can say, who may we thank for referring you? The reception may ask if it's not filled in, as I mentioned, or you could ask. And then, I always, if they say, well, I'm not sure, I say, well, I just like to thank them, So this way oh, okay, because they're wondering why I want to know. I just want to be able to thank them for sending you to me. That's all. And this is important because you'll find out in a minute. All right. So we also offer a free consultation, and decide on what you would like to offer during that free consultation. Consider the length of time spent and any content. Be sure to be extremely clear when scheduling that free consultation, that you're not going to be doing treatment or specific advice. I think I forgot something on the last slide. I apologize. Let me see if I can get to it here. All right. So we did these free consultation cards, and we had them printed. And then we had a big sign in our office that had a thank you sign that would say, thank you for your referrals, because we want to let people know that we want them to refer to us. And that was very helpful. People would see that sign and say, oh, you're taking referrals, or, oh, you're taking new patients. And, yeah, we're taking new patients. Oh, you're so busy, I thought you weren't taking new patients. So it's really important that we would let people know that. So one of the things we would do is we would give information to our patients to help them refer. So when they would go to check out, we would give them what's called a free consultation card and an envelope. And we would say, here's a free consultation card. If you have a family member or friend you think might benefit from Dr. Gazsi's services or my services, please share this with them. And we value all referrals. And we would give them these cards to help them make it easy to refer to us. And then the person who referred them, like when the patient comes in and says, oh, John Smith referred you to me, we would then mail them a card and say, thank you so much for referring a patient to us. Here's 2 free consultation cards to give out. So we would encourage them to send more people. If they sent 1 or 2, they might send more of them. So we would have, try to encourage, obviously, other providers as well to refer. And for providers, we did a little bit differently. We would actually keep a log of the referrals, and we'd send them a gift basket around the holiday. Excuse me. So for providers, we keep a log and we'd send them a gift basket around the holiday. We'd include a personal note thanking them for the referrals and looking forward to working with them. And Anyway, it was a, you always want to thank all your sources of referrals for sure. All right, so these are some of the examples of what we used in our referral programs. Excuse me. We made these kind of hot pink to stand out. The other trick was we would make them a size a little bit bigger than a business card. So if they took the card and put it in their wallet, it would stick out a little bit. And it's kind of a trick to make them not forget about it and get buried in the wallet. So it would be like, give the gift of caring without the cost, free health consultation for your family and friends. The pink Let's Help card below are good for a free 10-minute office visit for anyone who's not seen Dr. Gazsi before. And again, those cards were double sided. The two cards on the right were double sided. And showed a family, so they knew that we treated all ages, and then the goal was to let's help others. So you give them a little education, specialists in difficult health conditions, because that was my specialty. That was my favorite thing to do, is treating patients that nothing else had helped. So that those two on the right were the double-sided card that we mailed, and that one on the left was I think on the envelope that we put them in, or come with it. It's been a while since I've done this, as you can tell. But that worked great. We got a lot of referrals from patients. So I did this thing with online referrals or online testimonials. It was an interesting situation. I was shopping for something, and I was reading the Google reviews, and I thought, I wonder if people read doctors' reviews. I thought, well, maybe, why not experiment with this? Let me see. So I went about trying to get a lot of Google reviews to see what would happen. And so what I did was I asked any patient who was satisfied and said, oh my gosh, you've helped me so much. And I asked them, would you write me a positive Google review? And they said, sure. And then they would forget to do it. So what I did was I started emailing them with a link directly to my review page, and says, you offered to write me a review. Thank you so much. Here's a link to make it easy for you. And then I would follow up with them if I didn't have in a month, and then they hadn't done it, I would follow up with them and try to get them to do it. So over time, it took me probably 6 months. I got, I think, up to, it was like 30 reviews, 35-star reviews. And then I stopped doing it because I got busy with other stuff. And I started tracking how many people started coming from the website. And what I noticed was, previous to this, almost all my new patients came from referrals from other patients. And after this, I started seeing this enormous uptick in people who've said they found out about me online, or they read my reviews. And it was dramatic. It almost doubled my new patients. And again, it didn't cost a penny. A little bit of time for you and your staff, but it didn't cost a penny. So this is just an example of some of the reviews. Some of them wrote books, I call that. Some of them like several paragraphs, which was awesome, because patients would come and say, I read this review and it said, oh my gosh, how much you helped them with their menstrual cramps and this and this. And that was exactly what I have. So I just had to come see you. And this would happen all the time. So I'm going to tell you, this was like the best, cheapest marketing I've ever done in my life, and it worked extremely well. We also put together a testimonial binder. So anybody that wrote reviews, or if I got them to write testimonial, we put in a binder in the waiting room. Patients would come in a few minutes early. They'd start to read it. They would, and then they would comment to me later about it. Oh, I read this testimonial. I'm really hopeful you can help me. But again, I got them motivated, got them excited by seeing what other people can do, making it available to them. We also put together a waiting room silent video. I tried it with sound first. I found it was really distracting and annoying. So we made it a silent video. Very easy to do. I did it in PowerPoint, and I just could, once I made basically made a bunch of slides, and then there's an app that basically converted it to a video, and then I just put it on a TV with a USB stick and let it play on a repeat. And it had testimonials on it. It had product information on it. It had service information on it. And patients would be a lot of times, the wife would come with the husband. The wife would sit out in the waiting room while the husband was with me, and we'd come out, and she was, oh, I saw this on the thing. I want to get that, or I want to do this test. Or it was amazing how effective that was. That they would, sit there and they would watch the screen, and because it was interesting and it was educational, and it wasn't an audio thing, because the audio, they couldn't hear it. Someone was talking, and it was all just mostly pictures with a little bit of text, and it was absolutely amazing how effective that was. So step three, be the expert. I mentioned this earlier. Why would someone see you rather than someone else? What makes you special? What makes you different? And then what's really extremely important is confidence. And if you're already confident, that's wonderful. You don't have to worry about this slide. But if you're not, because you're fresh out of school, or if you don't have that much experience, you have to fake it. You just have to act confident. You have to speak with conviction, even if it's just conviction. That's what you believe. But you have to, give them examples of how you can help them, or why you can help them, or how you're going to help them, and what the steps are. Because people want to feel confident in you, and you have to be the expert, and you have to portray that. Well, I hope this is helpful. Anyway, so why do any of this? Because, like I said earlier in the beginning, change is hard. And if you don't have a reason, to be honest, most people won't, because change is difficult. If you have a financial need, if your business is struggling, if your personal financial goals aren't being met, maybe you'll be motivated. Maybe this gave you some ideas. Maybe they're ideas you want to use. That's great. Maybe they give you other ideas that are similar, that work better for you. That's perfectly fine. It's really where you are and whether you're comfortable or not. No one wants to leave their comfort zone. So I certainly didn't want to. I had to have my back against the wall and be in a bad situation. Again, I'm not passionate about making a ton of money. I'm passionate about making a good making a living, paying my bills, enjoying life, having some downtime, being able to afford getting away once in a while. And most importantly, I really wanted to help a lot of patients, and as many people as I could. And getting busy with patients was very rewarding. I loved my practice, but I had it at bottom where I was willing to make changes. So if you still have questions, feel free to contact me. You can call my cell if you want. It's written down there on the left side. If you don't want to talk to me personally, no, I'm just kidding. You can reach me at the office, or you can call my cell, or you can email us. And thank you again for taking the time to watch this. I hope it's been helpful.